Welcome back to Nightcap Chat, the pop culture podcast. We talk all things comic books, video games, movies, TV shows, and more. Today, we are reflecting on the FoX X-Men movies in celebration of the first X-Men movie's 20th anniversary. I'm Blade O'Neill.
I'm Ken Brown.
I'm Lance O'Neill.
And of course, before we dive into it all, just want to thank you all for taking the time to once again listen to Nightcap Chat. Thank you for all your support and liking, sharing, and subscribing. You know, without you guys, we wouldn't have a podcast. So if you are enjoying it, you know, share it on social media. You know, word of mouth is the best way to kind of propagate this. You know,
word of mouth is the strongest advertisement there is.
Yes, thank you, Lance. That's absolutely correct.
That's what my degree got me. I learned that. I know that.
And you have a lot of debt to show for that, right?
Yes, I do.
So, I don't know about you guys, but I cannot believe it's been 20 years since the first X-Men movie came out. That's insane.
Yes,
it's gross. I feel old.
Yeah, longer. I mean, MCU is doing something pretty impressive, but I mean, you got to give Fox a little bit of credit. They've been doing 20 years worth of movies. You know, it's no James Bond franchise, but I mean, 20 years of what was supposed to be the same universe of superhero movies.
It kind of, sort of has been.
Same universe.
Not really.
The soft reboot, and then it started an alternate reality, but we'll get there in a little bit. And these will all be on Disney Plus soon if they're not already, something like that. I don't even remember. But July 14th, 2000, the first X-Men movie came out. It was directed by Bryan Singer, and for the time, my goodness, it was excellent, right?
It was pretty cool, yeah.
I mean, it brought superhero movies as a team to a whole new era.
Yeah.
I mean, was that the first true superhero team movie that was ever done inside theaters?
Inside theaters is, I think, the key word there, because there was a Fantastic Four movie before this, but that was not released in theaters.
Yeah, not good enough.
That's a little bit of a deep cut, but maybe not.
Yeah.
What a cast. This is the movie that put Hugh Jackman on the map. I don't even care. Yes, he did stuff before that, but I mean, this made Hugh Jackman an A-list celebrity, I think.
Yeah, he was just an Australian
singing
actor who
Broadway show, right? Wasn't he a Broadway actor?
And I know we've said this before, but my goodness, what terrible casting that turned out so well.
Yeah.
Way too tall, way too good looking to play Wolverine. And he's just such a good actor that you can't picture anyone else in the role. Right?
Yeah. And what horrible costumes they had, and yet we still enjoyed the movie.
You know, and I wrote a paper on superhero movies in school. And this was part of this progression toward actual superhero movies with costumes, because before this we had Blade, and that's a topic that the general audience is familiar with. Vampires, vampire hunting, you know, it's nothing too crazy, you know. And then we had X-Men, and there were costumes, but there was nothing crazy, you know. But we were getting there. There was X's, but it was still all in black. And what was there after this? Spider-Man, and they went for it, you know. But before I get into Spider-Man, Patrick Stewart played Charles Xavier, which
phenomenal
is dream
job,
casting.
Of course.
Dream casting.
Perfect casting.
Ian McKellen, Magneto.
Yes.
Phenomenal actor. My goodness, like he killed it. I mean, he's just a great actor as it is. When Magneto comes to MCU again, like I hope there's some kind of older gentleman playing him. But maybe that's the fresh take, is maybe we can have someone, I don't know, maybe less old, or I don't know, maybe a more well-built Magneto, because like Magneto in the comics, like he's got some muscles. You know, I don't know if we necessarily
pretty regularly.
Yeah, exactly. I almost want to start talking about Michael Fassbender, but I'm getting ahead of myself here. Famke Janssen, Jean Grey, fine. I mean, I guess it doesn't. She was okay. I mean, about sums it up, I think. Halle Berry played Storm, which might have sounded okay on paper, but I think ultimately did not pan out. Do you guys agree?
I thought it was okay, but as far as maybe moviegoers go, but as far as maybe a comic book authentic style that a fan would want, I would say probably not as much as they would want, because you kind of want someone who sounds like they're like an African queen from like Africa, not just like Halle Berry.
It's kind of interesting like that. They did the opposites with both Wolverine and Storm. Like Storm's supposed to be, once again, dude, like a 6'4". She's supposed to be pretty tall. Person from like Kenya, like Africa area, and Wolverine's supposed to be 5'3" and Canadian. And you sit there and you see them walking together inside the X Mansion at one point in the movie, and like Wolverine's like towering over Storm. Something's not right there. But I mean, as Storm, I know what you mean. It's like as an actress, it's kind of hard to be totally disappointed with Halle Berry because she is a good actress. But I know what you mean. It wasn't really perfect casting. It was just more or less let's bring people to the movies casting because everybody knows Halle Berry.
Yep, totally agree with that. Anna Paquin played Rogue, and which
she did awesome.
So she's a good actress, but like, and in X-Men 1 she was fine, but like I feel like her character never came to fruition. Like she never became the Rogue, that was just like a confident and a badass, and was super strong. Like she was always just like, like she never got past that teenager thing.
Yeah, they like left her. They stuck her in like her like early teens, like immature kind of like setting, and then they just like it seemed like they wanted to develop her and bring her into something, and then they just kind of dropped the ball on it. Like they just forgot that she was a potentially main story character, and they just ran with Wolverine. It was like they just dropped everything and was like, I think we should just focus on Wolverine.
I feel like they kind of wanted that like Jubilee Wolverine type of relationship with the two of them. 100%. But they said Jubilee's not ready for this audience. No one really cares too much about Jubilee enough to fill those seats. So let's try to do that same dynamic with Rogue and Wolverine. They did it once or twice in the comics, teaming up and trying to mentor each other. But it was mostly a Kitty Pryde and Wolverine and a Jubilee and Wolverine type of dynamic over the years. But
that's a great point, and I was actually wanted to make the comparison that if you start the 90s X-Men show, there was that Jubilee Wolverine dynamic as they find the X-Men together, and the first X-Men movie kind of did that, like it's they used Rogue as that relatable character for like the youth audience, as she finds Wolverine or gets saved by Wolverine or whatever it was. And then they get rescued by the X-Men, and they're kind of, they're kind of those relatable characters going into that world. I mean, it was a good start, but I was disappointed where it went for sure. Now, then, of course, the late Tyler Mane played Sabretooth.
Yeah.
All right. They made him a bland character, and that was cool. I mean, Tyler Mane did the job he needed to for what they were trying to do, and he was a good Sabretooth. It was annoying that it seemed like that's where they got introduced, Wolverine and Sabretooth, especially after we see their history in the later movies. It really makes less sense. But I mean, that's some of the beginning of the evidence that FoX did not have a plan. They were winging this, Don't want to go through too much of this cast, but of course Ray Park was Toad. Ray Park, of course, plays Darth Maul, and he's a stunt guy. He was fine. I mean, I don't know that it matters who plays Toad. Rebecca Romijn was Mystique. Of course, that was taken over by Jennifer Lawrence. And those are the big ones there. That was a good movie. Like I really enjoyed it. I mean, I think it was the actors, that really, put this on the map. And without the success of movies like Blade, X-Men, Spider-Man, I don't think we would have superheroes like we do today. Superhero movies. I mean,
Yeah, and I think especially with Spider-Man, because Spider-Man did so well at the box office.
Mm-hmm.
Not that X-Men didn't do well in the box office, but Spider-Man did exceptionally well.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's where companies like knew that, hey, we could make a lot of money doing this, so let's try it.
Yeah, Spider-Man was really good at looking authentic to the fans too, as well. Like where we talked about earlier about how X-Men kind of dropped the ball on appealing to comic book enthusiasts about not looking right. I said to the Black Leather X-Men was kind of something they tried writing in the comics in the Grant Morrison Frank Quietly run, but it still didn't do well. As soon as Grant Morrison was off the book, they switched them back to their old costumes again. And so I think they were trying to do something to appeal to the movie audience to relate to the comic books. But when they said movie audience, if they're not going to read comics, they're not going to read comics. Let's keep on appealing to our true fan base and put them back in the old costumes again.
And I think I kind of get it from a certain standpoint, but I think doing an idea of just like all black was a little much.
Yeah.
But you could have just like, why don't you meet it like halfway? Like instead of just doing a completely different costume as pure black and with an X, why not like have like a little color to it? Like just like a little homage to the thing besides making a joke about it. Like yellow spandex,
Spandex.
But I don't know, because I get it, because it would look kind of corny and stupid if they had like the original costumes and they're running around. Like it would be like, come on. But you could have done something close to it, maybe.
They may have been trying to modernize too what happened originally in the original X-Men comics, because for like the first 25 issues of X-Men, they were just wearing their blue and gold costumes where everybody kind of matched together. And then as the comic series continued, they started getting a little bit more of their own identity of costume design. Right. And so maybe they were trying to hit at that in a modern way, but it was very missed off the target. It was kind of, Green Arrow trying to fire blind at the target and turn in the opposite direction while he shot the arrow. Maybe tricking works, but it didn't really work in that case for the X-Men movies.
I think Fox didn't have a lot of confidence in enough confidence, I should say, in the X-Men movies. Because I know they were worried about having a movie with multiple super powered people and with these alternate names and stuff, and it's also apparent in their costume decisioning.
It's also apparent in their acting casting, because they clearly casted people that they were confident in could draw. Because when you have Charles Xavier and Magneto and Halle Berry, you have those three people or those actors that, it's
pulling people out.
Yeah, you're trying to make sure that, hey, this is at least going to be well acted, Yeah,
and given subsequent movies too, like it was pretty well written. It was just X-Men introduction story versus Magneto and the Brotherhood, and Magneto is pissed off at the human race, and he's going to turn everyone into mutants using a device at the Statue of Liberty. And there's so many great lines from Ian McKellen, like, oh yes, a bolt of lightning into a large copper conductor. I thought you lived at a school. That's hysterical. I don't know. I think Ian McKellen was definitely one of my favorites in that movie.
The line we use all the time is, why do you ask questions which you already know the answers?
Why do you ask questions which you already know the answers? Yes, and they played back to those lines again at the end of the movie, I think, or at least in the next one. Or like when Magneto, I want to say he was robbing a bank, but I feel like that's not correct. But Sabretooth was at the bank and Halle Berry was there, and like all the police are outside, and then he just pulls all their guns out of their hands and points them back at him, and then Professor X takes over Sabretooth's mind and uses Sabretooth to grab his neck, and just Magneto calls him out. It's like, all right, like I'll shoot them if you don't let me go. You know,
and he does shoot one of them.
Yes,
he just holds he stops the bullet on his forehead.
Care to press your luck, Charles. I don't think I can stop them all. And then still unwilling to make sacrifices. That's what makes you weak. Like it was so good. It was so good. I'll stop quoting it now.
Yeah.
Great stepping up point. So of course, you know, this leads to X2.
3 years later.
3 years later. Waited 3 years to get a sequel. Now, here's where some of the planning already starts to fall apart. Although I want to first say X-Men 2, I think, is one of the best X-Men movies ever. For sure. But we went from the Brotherhood, Magneto and the Brotherhood of Mutants, to really William Stryker is the main bad guy. And you can tell that they're really just kind of banking on Wolverine here, you know, at this point.
They chose a great story for the premise, though. God Loves, Man Kills
Yeah.
is one of the most popular standalone X-Men graphic novels of all time.
Yep.
And they had a great opportunity to expand on that, but they tied in Weapon X program into the story because they just, as you said too, Wolverine became the carrier of the movie in that first movie, and they kind of almost like scrap plans and let's make Stryker into this militant guy rather than into the more or less preacher or the eccentric, like a leader that's saying more or less the fall of humanity's coming because of these mutants.
Yep.
And it was wondering like if they deviated that way on purpose just because of Wolverine, or it was just something that such. I remember that movie was coming out. I was so excited because they're talking about God Loves, Man Kills. They did another Extreme X-Men storyline that was supposed to be the sequel to God Loves, Man Kills with Stryker, and it was just the timing of it, of them trying to connect the comics audience to the movie audience, made it super exciting. But then when you saw the movie, it was more or less, like I said too, just a Wolverine movie rather than what they were originally designing it to be. But go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, it was like a precursor to like a Wolverine Weapon X movie. I mean, especially with the presence of Lady Deathstrike, which was really cool that she was in there.
Yeah.
But I mean, as far as what should have been for the X-Men, like, I don't know, maybe doing more of a God Loves, Man Kills kind of thing would have been appropriate, but it just became so centered around Wolverine.
Do you see the movie?
It's a good movie. I'm not gonna
the poster though for it?
For X2?
Yeah, click on X2 on the Wikipedia thing, the theatrical release poster. And see who the two biggest people, two biggest faces on the poster is.
It's Halle Berry and Hugh Jackman.
Yeah, that's what they were using Halle Berry to try to get people in the seats.
Yeah.
And then they were like, hey, Wolverine, we're gonna be doing Wolverine movies. This is like the beginning of the end of X-Men. Kind of.
Oh, we're getting there, because I think we're starting to hit a peak here, because X2 is even better than X1. Like, they got some good momentum going, you know, at this point. And Brian Cox as William Stryker. Talk about great actors. Like, FoX just knows how to cast great actors. Like, that's for sure. And how about Alan Cumming as Nightcrawler?
Nightcrawler, yeah, he was cool.
What a phenomenal job. I don't think we got enough of his Nightcrawler. No,
we didn't. And wasn't this the intro of Iceman?
No, he was in the first one.
Yeah, he was.
Very, very small role, but he had a much more expanded role in this.
Oh, this was also the cameo for Colossus, right?
Yes, I can help you.
Oh, yes.
And he just turns into, and you're like, oh, that's Colossus. And then you don't see him. And you're like, come on, we got Colossus for like 5 seconds.
There's lots of cameos in there. I think we also have Siren. She wakes up and she screams, and then all the guys invading are like, and then somebody shoots a dart in her neck.
And I want to say we also had a cameo from, was it Katie Pryde? But it was like a nobody actress. Like some chick just runs through a wall, right?
Yeah, Katie Stewart plays Shadowcat, according to IMDb here. Because it wasn't. Her name is eluding me, but I'm sure I'll see it here in the next movie here. But yeah, I mean, I've seen X-Men 2 so many times. I want to say the game wasn't bad. there was even a spin-off game. And more evidence of them like not knowing what they're doing next when at the end we set up Phoenix / Dark Phoenix. And we'll go more into that later. But I mean, we had a good setup there. It was really exciting.
It was almost kind of soon though, because you were like, you're going to do this only after like 2 movies. It was kind of surprising. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Because her dying like that like doesn't happen until X-Men 120, right? 129, 125, wherever that
I mean,
was.
I guess in theory, you want your third one to be something strong, you know,
Sure.
And like they're not thinking in terms of 6 movies or whatever. You know, we had the Sentinels in the beginning when they're running through the danger room. Or no, is that the third one? That's the beginning of the third one, isn't it? Oh, it's this one.
No, it's the second one.
It is. I thought it was this one, but I don't know. My point is, we don't get a Sentinel movie till much further down the road. Like, I don't understand why we didn't, especially with Brian Cox and the way he's handling mutants. Like, I'm surprised they didn't do a Sentinel thing. Instead, he had his son, who was actually Mastermind. Right? His name is eluding me. Is it William Stryker?
Yeah, William Stryker.
Yeah, but so his son in the movie was Mastermind, who was actually part of the Hellfire Club.
Really?
Yeah, the one in the wheelchair who kind of mind controls Xavier.
That makes sense. I was trying to figure out like what they were doing with him. They never seemed to bring him back after that movie.
Because what was his son? My son, William. This is yours, Jason. Jason.
Oh, sorry.
What?
Jason Wingard was his name, I think.
Yes. Yeah. He's not my son. You know, Jason. Okay, so they never alluded to his last name, but that's who he's supposed to be. He was Mastermind from the Hellfire Club, played by Michael Reed McKay. Hopefully, I'm saying that right. Another powerful mutant that they just kind of wasted. And when we do get to the Hellfire Club later, you know, it really wouldn't make too much sense.
I do think that the major success of the first 2 movies came from Bryan Singer being involved with X-Men 1 and 2, the same way Tim Burton was involved with the Batman movies. Joel Schumacher took over the Batman movies. It kind of went a completely different direction.
Yep.
And it kind of felt the same way. I can't remember the name of the guy that came in to replace Bryan Singer when he went over to do Superman.
Brett Ratner.
That's right, Brett Ratner, who's great for doing those action movies other than X-Men movies, it seems like. But I really felt like that Bryan Singer leaving for the Superman franchise proved about he was doing something right for Warner Brothers to try to pull him over to do what I felt was kind of one of the better Superman movies, with Brandon Routh being Superman, over the sequel of the Richard Donner stories, to try to do as best as he could with it, which was kind of a flop too, because it seems like whatever they try doing over with Warner Brothers and DC, it's really hard to get it to work without Christopher Reeve for some reason, or Michael Keaton. But it's something like that. They trusted Bryan Singer enough to take him away from the X-Men franchise, which they saw them doing a good job over there, trying to get them to do something with Superman over in their universe.
And of course, he took with him James Marsden from the X-Men movies. Why he left playing Cyclops to play Lois Lane's boyfriend, I do not know. He must have liked working with Bryan Singer that much, I suppose. But we got X-Men: The Last Stand after this, the third X-Men movie. It was like they did the Dark Phoenix saga, but it ended up kind of taking a backseat to the Cure, which, you got to do one or the other. You got to have confidence in these stories, and they unceremoniously just kill off Cyclops right at the beginning. He's a floating pair of goggles. And gosh, I mean, right from the beginning, I mean, I don't know about you guys, but like I remember going to see X-Men The Last Stand in theaters. And I got super annoyed super fast. Like with the Phoenix Force was in her mind because Xavier trapped her multiple personality disorder within there, and now he's like the bad guy, but not the bad guy, and then completely off character, just kind of like, I don't need to explain myself, well, least of all to you, to Wolverine. Like now, okay, like where is this coming from? You know, no fault of the actors, of course.
It felt like that maybe that the producers and the directors were comfortable with selling to the audience that they're supernatural humans.
Yeah, I think that they were thinking it was like way too much of a jump, of a leap, because you're talking about something coming from like outer space to come and like possess almost some person that's going to make her so strong that she's going to be able to wipe out the entire world. I think they were like, this might be too much. You know what I mean?
The audience wouldn't buy in. Thanks, Lance. You got what I was saying exactly.
That's what I was trying. I know you were
like dying.
You dying.
Thank you, Lance, for being on that same wavelength with me. Dude, I know when I move on to the next life, you guys will be there for me.
Yeah, I get that, and I mean that's hardly my main qualm with the whole movie. I mean, if that was the only bad thing, you know, whatever. But I mean, we got a ton of terrible writing. You know, we had Vinnie Jones as the Juggernaut, which was fun casting, and you know, like it might have been okay, but I mean, what was the point in the final battle? You have Juggernaut go up against Kitty Pryde, like that, like not even Colossus, not even Wolverine. Like, and there's Juggernaut versus Kitty Pryde was the final battle for him. Like,
and there was the Juggernaut line too, which was pretty rough.
Yes, and do you guys know the origin of that? You know, I'm the Juggernaut, and then bad word. So I didn't know this, but I spilled my drink, so that's not what I was going to say. Oh, I just made it worse. Okay.
Wow, where's the? Can you add this to a blooper?
This is going great. This is going great.
Spilling drinks.
Ken's choking, and I
oh my god!
Put
out the fire back there.
Oh my goodness. Okay. What was I saying? I was saying something about Juggernaut.
The Juggernaut. I'm the Juggernaut. Please.
Oh. So
yeah,
there was a popular YouTube series where they redubbed the 90s X-Men cartoon with more realistic / adult dialogue. And I think it was that first episode with the Juggernaut that there was that line. So the X-Men movies did that as an homage to this 90s X-Men redubbing thing.
Okay.
Which is kind of cool, kind of stupid. I don't know.
I mean, it's cool if you're the people redubbing it, I guess.
Sure. Yeah.
I know.
Yeah, absolutely.
Comic material, not important. Fan fun, perfect. Let's do it. People recognize that.
Yeah. No kidding.
I don't remember Juggernaut ever having a sense of humor in the comics. Do you?
Was it supposed to be funny, or like did he mean it?
Maybe he did mean it.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, because Juggernaut, I said too, like Lance was earlier saying, Juggernaut picks on Colossus, or you said that, right? Like he doesn't pick on Kitty Pryde, dude. He wants the toughest guy in the room.
Right.
And Kitty Pryde, if you're going in a room of X-Men, let's see, okay, who looks like the biggest threat here? You, 17-year-old little girl that can go through walls. Let's take you on. Do you know what I mean? It's just,
I also want to say, didn't they made him a mutant, right? Or am I wrong?
You know, they did, like, because he was in the mutant containment thing, and he had the collar, and I guess
his helmet's not magical.
His helmet was not magical. And the first thing,
that was so annoying.
They said, "And what do they call you, Juggernaut?" I can see why. And the next thing he says, "You're let me out of here. I gotta pee." Okay.
Him going. don't remember Juggernaut having comedic lines very much in books. But
so I guess you're right, Ken. Like, but they just gave him stupid lines, you know. But that wasn't his fault. And it more evidence of like they did not care about anyone's actual relationships because he's Professor X's. Is it stepbrother or half brother?
I think it's his half brother.
Half
might be step brother.
And you know, of course, yeah. And in X-Men 2, we had Mystique, we had Nightcrawler, we had Rogue, we had them all in one scene together, and we never addressed any of their actual relationships to each other. And 20 years worth of movies still never even touched upon it. You know, like, come on.
But we do have like this weird moment where Beast and Mystique are like, we're both blue. And like, you know what I mean? Like, what? We skipped Nightcrawler, Mystique, and Rogue, but Beast and Mystique are blue in there.
Which wasn't as weird as, oh, I'm Professor X and Mystique broke into my house and now you're going to be like my adopted sister. Okay. Anyway, I'm getting ahead of it again.
Yeah, it's. I don't think any of these people that produced these or wrote these scripts read much of anything but the premise of what the characters were, power set was, and a little bit of their background, and that was it. It's like, okay, let's leave it at that. Professor X can read minds. Him and Magneto buddies from somewhere down the line. Let's just try to figure this out and go from there. Kitty Pryde can walk through walls. That's really cool. Let's have Juggernaut chase her. I'm just kind of going. It's just kind of like what they wanted to do with the power sets rather than what any of the actual onion of the character peels away.
Mm-hmm. And every movie, Charles Xavier, Magneto have to play chess.
Yes, exactly. Wasn't Parker Brothers billboards in these movies or anything like that, dude? Or Pressman, you know, that were the Pressman. Why didn't they get on that? They had Pressman X-Men variant comics. Why didn't they have a Pressman billboard behind them playing chess inside the movie there?
So you just gave me a crazy thought. Cause I'm not sure if they play chess in this one, but Magneto dies in this one. I mean, I'm sorry. Professor X dies. He explodes, right? Okay. And Magneto gets cured, which was stupid. Really annoyed me. Okay, I'm getting ahead of myself. I'm pretty sure. Tell me if you can think of a movie that came out before this that did this. I think this was our first after the credits scene.
Oh.
No.
X-Men 2 did not have one.
Oh, wait. X-Men 2 almost had one. Because the end of the movie, they're just like panning at the water and then you see the red bird and then it ends,
but
right?
This one had an after the credits scene where we see Magneto playing chess as a sad, cured mutant.
Yes. And then all of a sudden you see
a little nudge in the chess piece.
Just as much as Captain America holding Thor's hammer that one time.
Yeah. So I think that's the first after the credits scene because Spider-Man didn't have it. Spider-Man 2 didn't have it. That's the first after the credits scene, which redeemed one of the many stupid things that happened in that movie, which was curing Magneto. So dumb. I was so annoyed with that.
How do you cure mutants? I don't get it. I think isn't it in their DNA strand?
So
did they not study that either?
According to Beast, well, you know, it suppresses the mutant X gene, and they're calling it a cure because they used
it's like a mask over it, pretty much.
Probably, yeah, because they used Leech, the little boy in there, like that. He was supposed to be Leech, so they used him to create that cure. Which also reminds me, like, how about Kelsey Grammer as Beast?
I did a good job.
Fantastic casting.
Me too.
Yeah, I wish he had more opportunities to just kind of go for it. I mean, there was a deleted scene in there where he's quoting, I think it was Shakespeare, you know, and admittedly it was a little awkward. That was probably the director's fault. Well, I would have really liked to have seen more of that. One good thing about the movie, let's say something positive here. Where Wolverine has everyone leave the island, and it's just him and Phoenix, like tell everyone to get out of here, and he's just going up to her and getting like pieces of his skin blasted off, and then Jean says to Wolverine, like, you would die for them. And he says, no, not for them, for you. And then she's like, save me. He says, I love you. And then Wolverine stabs Phoenix, which is not how the Dark Phoenix saga ends, but that is a reference to the end of, is it Phoenix End Song or X-Men The End, where Wolverine kills the White Phoenix? That's End Song, isn't it?
I think it is End Song. That's, because I know also in X-Men 150 at the end of Morrison's run, Wolverine and Jean Grey up in space, and I think Wolverine killed Jean there too as well, if I remember correctly.
Okay.
Like as she was going into more or less afraid of slipping into the Dark Phoenix persona of her Phoenix ability.
Okay.
She was like, you can't control this. You have to kill me now. And it was the Magneto story on that one rather than her just being the main villain. And then like it was a Magneto versus Jean, final battle type of thing. And after she defeated Magneto, she was losing control of the Phoenix Force and asked Wolverine to kill her. And Wolverine, if I remember correctly, killed her there. Well, and then you're probably right at the end of End Song too, as well, correct? Because that's the two. I don't remember the end of that storyline.
I thought so, but I do know for sure that some iteration Wolverine killed Phoenix to stop her. So it wasn't totally wrong for that to happen. It just wasn't how the Dark Phoenix saga ended. Like she kind of kills herself, which might be a little anticlimactic. So you can't be too hard on them. But what a mess. I mean, that was the first time I was incredibly let down by a Marvel movie. And I was just so disappointed. I mean, we were going to have Dark Phoenix. It was going to be one of the most powerful beings, in the comics. And like, we just got Famke Janssen in a red dress.
I don't think we got the bird either. Did we get the
No, that was another thing. We did not get the Phoenix bird one single time. I was so upset about that. Not once.
Oh, the fans got the bird, and that was about it.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. I mean, there was concept art for it. They never did it.
X-Men 2, you got the bird for a second in the water.
See, like they're not thinking ahead. They're not planning anything.
But a different director did that scene, so
it shouldn't even matter.
I know what you're saying.
I mean, as far as Brett knew, he probably thought Jean was from Phoenix, Arizona or something and just took on the name of Phoenix.
Oh, God.
I don't know. I said, too, is like, with all due respect, Brett Ratner, but I really don't think those guys, there was much research on the characters. Just, as I said, too, it's like, okay, let's just do this really cool story, and it's a little bit like an echo of it, but there's the Ultimate Universe, there's the Marvel Universe, and the Cinematic Universe. We can do whatever the heck we want, and fans will love it because it's the X-Men. And after a certain amount of time, that only goes so far with fans.
Right.
And moviegoers in that case, too, because it's completely a clueless movie for the fan to watch, too, or for the non-fan to watch.
Yep. Totally agree. So, sorry, were you going to say something?
I was going to say, and this is when the year before this movie came out, this is when FoX decided to try and do Fantastic Four and do another costume team, but actually give them proper costumes.
It looked great, yeah.
And it was good for the time. Then they failed with X-Men Last Stand. Now, a little after X-Men 2, I'm sure we all remember all those rumors. They're going to do a Wolverine movie. They're going to do a Magneto movie. They're starting to think about spin-offs, what are we going to do with these film rights? So our next movie was X-Men Origins Wolverine. And my goodness, I was so excited to hear, wow, we got Ryan Reynolds as Deadpool. We got Hugh Jackman as Wolverine. We have, oh my goodness, his name is slipping my mind, who plays Sabretooth?
Liev Schreiber?
Liev Schreiber as Sabretooth, and a ton of other Weapon X characters.
Yeah, Dominic Monaghan?
Dominic Monaghan who played some version of that chicken. I can't even think of that character's name.
And they also, I actually almost forgot. And then they also said, hey, we're going to have Gambit in this movie too.
That's right. For some reason, they threw Gambit in there. I'm like, okay, that's weird, but all right. We had Will.i.am play John Wraith, which is fine. Lynn Collins played Silver Fox. Cool. That's really cool. Dominic Monaghan played Chris Bradley / Bolt. Kevin Durand played Fred Dukes, who of course is the Blob, which is a little weird for this movie. But they really just threw in a ton of people. They had a young Scott Summers, a young Emma Frost. Fun fact, I went to the world premiere of this movie. I paid like $400 for tickets on Craigslist because I was so excited. This was going to be the first movie with Deadpool. You could only get the tickets. It was like free or $10. But like I dropped $400 on these babies. I touched Ryan Reynolds' elbow. I got his autograph.
That's cool.
Because there was a bunch of fangirls standing next to me, and I knew if I can get them to start calling for Ryan, he would come over. And so I started chanting Ryan, and I got them all to do it. And sure enough, he came over. He signed I think it was an Entertainment Weekly. Talk about a freaking disappointment. Oh my goodness. After all that, I spent $400 to see this movie, but I got to see Hugh Jackman and Ryan Reynolds. That's all I really remember being there. I mean, there were other people. Hugh Jackman rode in on a motorcycle. I have a little, those like foam fingers.
Oh yes,
I have one of those, but it's got like 3 claws. It's up in my comic book room. It was definitely a life accomplishment to go to a premiere for a Marvel movie, but I'm really upset that I spent $400 and it was this movie. No,
and it was basically almost a disaster.
Yeah.
That's how I would say it. Yeah.
I mean, I was having dreams about Deadpool's costume because like they weren't showing it in the trailers. Like, what's Deadpool going to look like? And like there were some leaks of the action figures and stuff. I'm like, that can't be right. Like, there's got to be something else here. Like, that's got to be like an in between thing. And no, like they sewed his mouth shut. They put a sword in his hands. He could naturally teleport because of whatever DNA they spliced into him. He had
lasers out of his eyes.
Shoot lasers out of his eyes.
Yeah, he was more the mimic than he was Deadpool, in my opinion.
He was like the Super Skrull of mutants.
Here's the thing about this movie. Like, it started off really well.
It did.
They did the whole story of him and Dog, but instead of Dog, it was Sabretooth, which we've discussed. I think it was on last episode or the episode before. And like, that was fine. Like, that was all pretty right on. And they had a really cool opening sequence of him going through the years and fighting in wars. And like, yeah, that was all right on. You could have connected that into Captain America or something down the road. And then he gets recruited by Weapon X and they start doing all these Weapon X missions. Like, great start. And I don't know, something just happens in the middle and it just falls apart. The Blob gets fat for no reason. Like he's whatever. They sew Wade's mouth shut. And Liev Schreiber, in spite of all this, was a great Victor Creed. I just want to say, like, brought some depth to that character. It got bad fast. Taylor Kitsch kept going in and out of his Cajun accent there. He had an accent, he didn't have an accent. Like, sorry. Like, he was subpar as Gambit for sure. My goodness.
And then don't forget about the climax. With the adamantium bullet.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, see, that was so stupid.
So stupid.
The only way to stop him is an adamantium bullet, which I have here. Oh, we thought maybe we need an adamantium bullet to specifically for this moment. Oh, my goodness.
And then that's how you're going to explain why he couldn't remember? Like that's it.
Yeah. Not from that crazy surgery he went through, toward the beginning of the movie because he got shot with an adamantium bullet. Please. please. Oh.
But you know what's funny? That movie. When did it come out? When exactly did it come out?
It was 2009.
When in 2009?
May 1st.
Wow, that was the free comic book day movie that year too?
Yep.
Oof, that's supposed to be the biggest blockbuster of the year movie.
Yeah, the problem is the year before that, the free comic book day movie, the year was Iron Man.
Wow.
That's why.
So what a turn of events. You have Iron Man drop, and then Fox literally drops the ball, and it's almost the beginning of the end for Fox.
And man, sorry, go on.
When Marvel started doing their own movies, is that when they kind of instituted the 2 years or less make a movie plan with Fox and Sony, or else the rights would revert back to Marvel?
Possibly. Well, they were making an X-Men movie after that every 2 years, so I mean, it's probable.
So
and they kind of we don't care whether it's good or not. We just got to get these out, or else the good one we come up with, because they'll revert back to Marvel property wise. I don't know, just the thought as to why these movies start getting so disjointed at that point.
Yeah, I don't know what the rules were for X-Men. There was definitely something with Fantastic Four and Daredevil, because the rights to Fantastic Four. No, I'm sorry. Yeah, yes. The rights to Fantastic Four and Daredevil were going to expire pretty close, and they were trying to make a deal with Fox before they lost Daredevil, and said, "Hey, we'll let you keep Daredevil if you let Fantastic Four expire." And they said no, and they rushed the Fantastic Four reboot, directed by, I think it was Josh Trank, into production. The one with Michael B. Jordan and that whole chaos, and they just let the Daredevil rights go. And of course, we got the Netflix Daredevil out of it, which was really good. We also got that nightmare of a Fantastic Four movie because they wanted to keep the rights, which was absolutely ridiculous. But I mean, before we get too off track, I mean, Fox dropped 2 bombs in a row here at this point. X-Men 3 and X-Men Last Stand. Now, of course, this now ruins their plans for X-Men Origins Magneto, right? Which was the big rumor thing. They ruined Deadpool. And I don't know if you remember right around this time, Ken, this hype around Ryan Reynolds playing Deadpool, this is when Deadpool started getting popular. He started appearing in video games. This was also the time of did they do a variant cover a month or something of Deadpool? And this was also the beginning of the ruining of my Deadpool collection, because I was mere issues away from every single Deadpool appearance in Marvel Comics, and it fell apart shortly after this.
I mean,
which is
the toy line, if I remember correctly, too. Did they do more X-Men movie toys after Wolverine Origins?
No, I believe this is the last time they did toys. This is the last time they allowed any promotion through toys. And I have the both Deadpools from this set. They were the Marvel Universe figures based on this, and they did comic book ones, and they did ones based on the movie. And I have the Weapon 11, or whatever you want to call the amalgamation of what they did to Deadpool there. And I have the Deadpool one.
Yeah.
They're a little underproduced. They're pretty valuable now. So I'm glad I got that stupid figure, even though I hated it.
Yeah, it's almost like Hasbro and Marvel said, "Yeah, we're done with doing the X-Men movie stuff. We don't need any more of that inside our toy departments anymore." But it's pretty debacle.
Yep.
And that's about all the time we have left for today's episode of Nightcap Chat. While we were recording this, it came in at around 2 hours. So we are breaking this up into 2 episodes. So this will be part 1. And either our next episode or the subsequent one will be part 2 of this discussion. But we appreciate you all taking the time to join us this week. If you enjoyed it, leave those 5-star reviews on platforms, especially like iTunes. It allows us to be featured in different promotions and such. More about Drona Comics, you can check them out in downtown Glendale, Arizona, dronacomics.com, on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And You can find Lance at Tales of Lance on Twitch, and he is also on Twitter and Instagram. But we appreciate you all taking the time to listen to this week's episode. We love you all. Be safe, and we will catch you next week.